And welcome back to TV. Once again, I am Eric Dave's friend, here to review Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 10, The Winds of Winter, the season finale. We have arrived, and I have to tell you, it was absolutely phenomenal. Phenomenal. Standing ovation for this episode. Two things happened I was a little upset about, which I'll get to, but overall, outstanding, and I'm just going to get right into it. And of course, I'm going to start with King's Landing because a lot happened. So we see everyone getting ready for the trial. Sir Loras is supposed to go on trial, and Cersei is supposed to go on trial. And all throughout, we see everyone getting dressed for it. You know, Margaery, Tommen, Cersei, everyone. And there's this amazingly haunting score playing. It was so brilliant and so amazing, and it just built so much tension. It was just incredible, the score. So we see Grand Maester Pycelle, and he's talking to one of Qyburne's little birds, one of the kids, and he's taken somewhere to where Qyburne is, and basically Qyburne says to him, "I'm sorry you're gonna have to die this way, but sometimes to bring in the new, you gotta get rid of the old." Pycelle's surrounded by all of Qyburne's little birds. The children, they all have knives, and they just massacre him. And for me, I tweeted this. It was something right out of the Children of the Corn. It was just very effective, very haunting stuff. So then we go to the trial. So Loras says, "Look, there's not going to need to be any big trial here. I confess to everything. You know, I was with Renly Baratheon, and you know, I renounce my claims to Highgarden, and you know, I will become, you know, a member of the faith." And the Sparrow's like, "Okay, you'll have your chance to prove yourself." And so they brand him. They cut his forehead with their symbol, as we saw last season with Lancel Lannister. So he's marked. His father's not happy about it, who's in the crowd, and Margaery says, "Listen, this has to happen. It's the only way." But then Margaery notices Cersei's not there, and Tommen's not there. And she knows something's wrong because Margaery is smart. So she says to the High Sparrow, "Something's not right here. Cersei, where is she? She would be here." He's like, "Well, the trial's going to commence without her if she doesn't show up." But he sends Lancel Lannister to retrieve her. So he leaves, and he goes and he sees one of those children, one of Qyburne's birds, and he's lured to like the boughs to the bottom, and he's maimed when he gets down there. He's completely maimed. He can't walk, but he sees three candles, three lights at the far away, and he starts crawling towards them. And as he gets closer and closer, he sees these three candles are on top of wildfire, and he sees wildfires completely surrounded him, and he knows if it goes off, he's dead, everyone's dead. Margaery says, "Look, we have to get out of here. Forget the gods. We need to leave." The Sparrow just doesn't want to listen to her, even though she's speaking the truth. She gets Loras, she gets her dad, she's trying to get out. The Faith won't let her out. You know, Tommen wants to go to the trial, but he's stopped by the Franken Mountain, so he's not there. So basically, Lancel Lannister gets right to the very end where these candles are. And it looks like he might stop it, but no. The candles hit the wildfire. We see the reflection of the green in Lancel's eyes, and kaboom, it all blows up. He dies. The High Sparrow and everyone that's there, they feel something rumbling, and I think the High Sparrow at the very last second realized what was about to happen. He's killed. Everyone's in there is killed. Margaery, Loras, their father, everyone, the Faith, they are dead. And it was unbelievable. Even though some of us did suspect that this was going to happen, it was still watching it. It was just unbelievable. And I want to give a shout out to Margaery, Natalie Dormer, because I've been a very big fan of hers since she played Anne Boleyn on The Tudors, and I've seen many actresses play that role and play it well, but no one has played that role as magnificent as she did. And out of all the people that died in this episode, she's the one I'm really going to miss, because I really love the actress. So goodbye, Margaery. I'll miss you. So back to the episode. So Cersei's watching this explosion and just relishing in it. She's loving it. You know, she's almost most of her enemies gone in one thing, and it comes at a price. The King Tommen has also seen this, and he's just in shell shock. He's horrified. He's informed Margaery is in fact dead, and he knows his mom did this, so he doesn't want to live anymore. he takes his crown off and he jumps to his death from his balcony, and that shocked me. He doesn't want to live anymore. So that leaves the question: who was going to rule? Ralph Cornett and Donna Dickens, who work for Hitfix, put out a really great article about that question. I suggest everyone reads it. But so basically, Cersei's informed about Tommen. She also has the Septon lady who was abusing her last season tied down, has her trapped, and she starts pouring wine on her and taunting her. She's totally become the Mad Queen, and she says, look, I killed all those people because it felt good. I killed my husband because it felt good. Doing this to you feels good. When I had sex with my brother, it felt good. And, the Septon lady's just like, look, I'm ready to die, just kill me. And Cersei's like, you're not going to die today. In comes the Franken Mountain. So Gregor, he takes his helm off, and Cersei locks them both in, and she's just screaming. And as Cersei leaves the room, she's saying, shame, shame, shame. I don't like Cersei, I never have, but I have to commend Lena Headey. Amazing performance by her. So, she sees Tommen's body, and, she says, look, he should be with his grandfather, his brother, and his sister, burn his body, and just dump his ashes where the Septon used to be. So then we see a scene with her in the throne room where she is crowned the queen, protector of the realm. Qui-Gon puts a crown on her, and she's the one at the end of this episode who is sitting on the Iron Throne. She has the power. The witch's prophecy of her 3 children dying has come to fruition, but Cersei's basically just gone mad. But who sees this? Jaime. He looks right at her, she looks at him, and he's not happy because he knows, I think deep down, this isn't going to end well. There's no good that's going to come of this. But, very interesting stuff, to see Cersei be the one that's on the throne now. So that's the story with King's Landing. So next I want to get to the Freys. So Walder Frey's having this big celebration. His sons are there. He's, because he has River run back, and he's just all happy. Jaime's there, Bronn's there, and he's like, he mentions he has Edmure back in a cell, but he's not going to kill him. He's then talking to Jaime. He's like, look, we're both Kingslayers, and you can see Jaime's annoyed with him. He doesn't really like Walder Frey. Like, none of us do, really. So, he leaves, he gets out of there. But then, later in the episode, we see Walder Frey. He's eating alone, and he says, where are my sons at? Where are my sons at? And there's this servant girl with him who's been serving him food. She's like, they're already here. He looks down at these pies he's eating, and he realizes he's eating his sons. She informs him, you're eating your children, and it was magnificent. And Frey pies. It's great. And then whoever this servant is, she takes her mask off and reveals herself to be Arya Stark. And she says, I'm Arya Stark, and the last thing you're going to see before you die is a Stark killing you. She slits his throat, and that was a long time coming since the Red Wedding. He definitely had it coming, and she avenged, her mother, she avenged Robb. It was great to see. I'm so happy her story, the House of Black and White, is over, because as I've always said, she's at her best when she's doing things like this, when she's out and about, kicking ass and taking names off her list. So I can't wait to see where her story goes next season now that she's back out in the world. But it was really great seeing the see Walder Frey finally dead. Great stuff. So I want to talk about Sam for a minute. He had a small little scene, but it was a good scene. He's finally arrived at Citadel to train. He arrives with Gilly and the baby, and he's like, I'm here because I'm going to become the new Grand Maester of the Night's Watch because he died. So he's let in, and we see this incredible sight, this library of all these books and columns and all this wealth of knowledge, and Sam has the moment, I made it, I have made it. So way to go, Sam, and I still say you were very smart to take that Valyrian steel sword. Good job. So next I'm going to get to Dorne. There was a small scene in Dorne which we haven't seen since the beginning of the season, which I'm happy about because Dorne was my least favorite part of last season, but it was okay in this episode. So basically, the Queen of Thorns is in Dorne, meeting with the Martells. She's been told what's happened in King's Landing. She knows her granddaughter's dead, her son's dead, her grandson's dead. They're all dead. So she's pissed. So the Martell says, listen, we have a common enemy, we can help you. And we have someone else. Who is it? It's Varys. And that was his mission that he left on. They formed some sort of an alliance together. So I think, Cersei definitely has problems. So that was a pretty cool scene. But next I want to get to Winterfell. Something I've been waiting a year for, was to start off Davos and Melisandre. So basically Jon's reminiscing with Melisandre about, his past there, but Davos comes storming in, and he chucks the stag that he made for Shireen right at Melisandre, and he says, tell Jon who that belonged to. Tell him, and she admits it was the Princess Shireen's. Tell him what you did to her, and he screams, tell him! And she admits it, we burned her at the stake. Jon looks horrified, Davos goes, why? And Melisandre's like, the army was trapped, and this and that, and Davos goes, you burned a little girl alive, and Melisandre's like, I only do what the Lord of Light tells me. He says, your God tells you to burn children? Your God is evil. And she's like, she's trying to plead her case, but he's like, I love that little girl. Like, she was my own, and I was right there with him because I love Shireen. And Liam Cunningham's acting in this scene was phenomenal. He's like, she was good, she was sweet, she was nice, and you killed her. And then Melisandre does bring up a valid point. She says, so did her father, so did her mother, even though her Selyse did in the end relent and want to stop it, even though it was too late. I didn't want to mention that, but basically, she's like, her own blood knew this was the only way. And Davos says, he's brilliant, he says, the only way for what? They all died anyway. You had Stannis fooled that he was the one, and everyone fooled, and you lied, and then Melisandre goes, I didn't lie, but I was wrong. And Davos goes, yes, you were wrong. And how many people are dead because you were wrong? So then he asks Jon, to execute her. She admitted her crime. Jon says, you have anything to say for yourself? She's like, look, there is a war coming still. You've seen the Night King that can help you win it. But Jon's like, no. And I was a little worried Jon might just let her stay and that be it, but no. Jon says, ride south, and if you ever come north again, I will have you killed, executed as a traitor. She leaves, but before she leaves, Davos gives her an even more dire warning. If he ever sees her again, he says, I will execute you myself. So I'm a little upset that she did get to live, because I don't think Shireen's truly avenged until she's dead, but at least she was banished. But, it was a really, really powerful scene for me. But moving on, we see this great big shot of Melisandre leaving Winterfell, and Jon's watching her, and he's joined by Sansa. And basically, he's like, I've had father's room prepared for you. You should be in charge because you are a true Stark. I'm not. Sansa says to him, you are a Stark to me. And then she apologizes to him about not telling him that she sent a raven to Littlefinger for the Knights of the Vale to come help. And he says, listen, in the end, they saved the day, but we have to trust each other. We have so many enemies out there. We won't make it if we don't trust each other. It's a very sweet scene. There are some people that are on board with them becoming a couple. I can't really say I'm there, but we'll see. But we'll see what happens with that. But anyway, she does inform Jon one last thing. Raven came, winter is here, and that's very bad news. So she is outside, and Littlefinger comes to see her and says to Littlefinger, what do you really want? And Littlefinger goes, you know what I want. I want you to rule, I want to be with you, I want to be by your side. And she's like, well, that's a nice thought, and she walks away. She doesn't want to be with him. But he's like, look, you're the true-born daughter of Ned and Catelyn Stark. You should be, people will rally behind you, not a bastard like your brother, but she doesn't really know if she wants to rule. She doesn't, So we're then see Benjen Stark, Cold Hands. He's brought Bran and Mira to the wall, and he's like, look, I can't go any further than this. There's magic in that wall. That's what keeps the undead out. But he's like, I'm going to keep fighting for the living as long as I can, and he wishes Bran and Mira good luck, good fortune. And I'm really glad they brought Cold Hands on the show, because that was something I wasn't sure was going to happen. But then we see Bran go into Wargmog, and this is big. We're taken back to the Tower of Joy. the conclusion of it. We see young Ned Stark find his sister. She's all bleeding. She's just had a baby, and she's happy to see him. But she says to him, "Ned, promise me, promise me." She whispers stuff to him. We hear some of it. We hear her say, "Robert Baratheon will kill him. So please promise me, promise me." Ned picks up her baby, and as he's looking down, the baby opens its eyes, its brown eyes, and it flashes to adult Jon Snow. And and as something we've known for a long time, it's confirmed. Jon is not Ned's son. He's Ned's sister's son, and he's also half Targaryen because Rhaegar Targaryen is his father. Something he doesn't know. That's the whole reason Ned had to protect him, because Robert Baratheon wanted all of the Targaryens wiped out. So he claimed him as his own son. But so then we're taken back to Winterfell, where Jon is, and he's with Sansa, and they're figuring out what should we do. The Lords of Houses are there, and basically Lyanna Mormont stands up, gives this amazing, amazing speech, very rousing, it was incredible. And she's like, "Look, to some of the lords, you didn't support Jon against the Boltons when you should have. You didn't support him, but you know what? House Mormont did. We remember." And she's like, "I don't care if he's a bastard. He has Ned Stark's blood in him." And I think that was actually a callback to season 1, when Jon's last scene with Ned. He says to Jon, "Remember, you may not have my name, but you have my blood." And Lyanna Mormont says, "From this day till my last, that is my king, the king in the north." And all the other lords of the houses who didn't join Jon against the Boltons realize there is still another war to fight against the undead, and they pledge their loyalty. They apologize to him and say, "The king in the north, the king in the north." And if I had a sword on me, I would have pledged myself. It was such an incredible scene, and it did invoke when Robb was anointed king in the north a little bit, but it was still on its own merits a very well done scene. The only thing with the scene, Sansa really doesn't know what to think. She's sitting there, and she's just like, and she looks at Littlefinger, and they're looking at each other, just like, Something to think about for next season, but definitely a great scene. So finally, I want to get to Daenerys, because there was some good stuff here. So she's getting ready to leave Marine. She wants to, head to Westeros, and basically Dario wants to come with, and she informs him, "No, you're not coming with me. You're going to stay here with the Second Sons and keep order. I can't bring a lover with me." Dario's very upset. He says, "I love you." He pleads his case. He knows Tyrion probably gave her this idea, but she's like, "I'm sorry, you cannot come with me. It's the way it is." And he's like, "Look, I'm sure you're going to get the throne you want. I hope it brings you happiness." So she goes to talk to Tyrion. Tyrion's like, "How did he take it?" She's like, "Well, Tyrion tells her, 'Look, you're in the great game now. I know it's a scary thing." And she's like, "You know what really scared me? I just told a man who loved me, who I thought I cared about, that he's not coming with me, and I felt nothing." She flat out admits she doesn't love him, and she doesn't really care for him. And I personally think if she really loves anyone, has any love for anyone, it is Jorah Mormont. That's just my opinion. But basically, Tyrion says to her, "Look, I've never really believed in much or believed in anything, but I believe in you, and I'm with you to the end." And she says, "Good, I have something for you." She